and happy Wednesday, July 15th. Welcome to another exciting edition of Rate Desk. I'm your host, Michael Thomas, here to talk about multifamily interest rates and other news. First, going to the markets. They all ended in the green today. No major turbulence like we've seen in prior days, so that's a good thing. We are seeing stability in the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield. That is quoting at 63 basis points, 0.63, range bound from where they were yesterday. Good to see the crude oil futures up in the $41 barrel range. That was a nice thing to see. Hope that continues. And jumping on over to the FHA multifamily rates on the 223F, a little bit of a shave off there at 2.49, quoting at 2.49 today. And a little bit less on the 221D4, quoting at 3.13. That is 3.13 fixed for 40 years. And before this, my client asked me, hey, is that 233 live rate I fixed for him, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago, still the lowest rate that I fixed? And the answer to that question is yes, that is. I don't believe anybody's fixed 35-year fixed rate lower that I've heard of at my company besides myself, which is exciting. But I did hear in the hospital finance world, which is also part of HUD land, that there's a rate under 2%, 1.98. It's a little bit of a different world in that group, in that type of financing. But wow, to be getting HUD financing at under 2%, that is pretty incredible for that hospital, and it was good to hear about that kind of pricing. Jumping over to the agency desk, Fannie Mae is flat from yesterday, quoting at 2.80 on the low end of the range. And Freddie Mac also range bound from yesterday, flat at 3.11. Now, what I want to talk with you about today. First, let me start with some good news. The NMHC came out with the July rent collections, and there's 87.6% of either full or partial rent payments in July. That's good. So far, so good. Could be better, could be worse. So I guess it depends on how you look at it. When a glass half full, half empty thing. You know, that benchmark of that over 85% is certainly a number a lot of owners look at, a lot of lenders look at, kind of as your break-even number. So being north of that is good, getting closer to it though. So we'll keep an eye on that. But I thought that was, not bad news to see that the rent collections were still, generally above the break-even level in, over 11 million, units that they survey. So that's pretty positive. The other thing I want to mention too is, I do the HUD loans, and one thing that HUD puts out and I share with borrowers is called Doing Business with HUD. And it talks about things in that assume you've already got the loan and now you're doing business with HUD. And I think it's a great thing to apply to any type of loan that you're getting. You could fill in the blank, doing business with XYZ Bank, doing business with Fannie Mae, doing business with, XYZ Life Company. It's great to think about, after the closing and, the excitement wears off, what are you really going to kind of run into as you've got the mechanism of your loan cooking and rolling along? A couple things with HUD to think about that just, pop up off my mind are the surplus cash distributions. HUD controls the timing of when you do your, what you might call equity distributions, but what HUD calls the surplus cash. So there's a calculation that happens twice a year. That's just one example. There's others. Another one I see borrowers really run into a lot on, CMBS loans or sometimes more sophisticated type of instruments are timing windows for your exit, for your, when can you actually pay the loan off and when are you able to do that and exit that without having to pay another month of interest. That's another one. And of course, prepayment can be very complicated. It depends on what kind of prepayment indemnity you have. Some of them are nearly impossible to calculate at the beginning of a loan. If you have yield maintenance or break funding, some of these more complex formulas that might not even be available for you to have in an open Excel document, for example. So those are just a few of them that come to mind, but I think it's a great idea. And I had a client asked me a question that I also thought was great, before we started working together. And that question was, what don't I know, or what could potentially be an issue? And again, I think that's a great question, and I have answers for that very specifically when it comes to HUD on things that I've seen. But lenders are going to know. Lenders that are experienced are going to have specific answers. And I just think it's a great way to be, forewarned, I guess, is forearmed in that way. So, understand what you're getting into from the very beginning, and really make sure that your goals and objectives and your business model is in alignment with the things that are going to be occurring later on in the transaction that a lot of times, frankly, get overlooked. People are very focused on the valuation or the cash out or whatever, the fun parts of the transaction, kind of lose sight of maybe some of the mechanisms of the controls that are in place with the lender of record and the servicer. Anyway, just something to think about. That is my tip for today. Thank you all for tuning in to another exciting edition of Rate Desk. I'm your host, Michael Thomas, signing off.